Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a very, very interesting session at the Hearth within. We are discussing today a very significant book, this newly released Poems of Chandalini, uh, poems by Bengali Dalit Womanist, poems by Kalyani Thakur Charal, and translated into English very ably by Zinia, Mitra, and Jaydeep Sarangi. This is a book of poems that needed to come out in English because we are looking repeatedly to expand the repertoire of English literature. And I think that in a country like India, with its diversity of socio-political linguistic positions, translations help to increase the richness of Indian English as a whole. So we are very glad that this collection of poems is here. And in order to celebrate it, we are delighted to have a wonderful panel of critics as well as students from across the country who will be reading poems from the book. So without much ado, I would like to invite Professor Jaydeep Sarangi to formally extend a warm welcome to all present here this evening. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. It is one of the important evenings that we can even imagine. We thank on behalf of Hearth Within Professor Maya Pandit, who is an icon in this field, Professor Baliram Gaikwad, who has also worked on this field for a long time from Mumbai, Professor R. Dharani, who has worked for PhD on this particular field, and also she has worked extensively, and she is also involved in this movement. We welcome Kalyani, the poet. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to really know our society in a better light. Thank you, Zinia, my co-translator and editor, and who is a pillar of inspiration for all of us. Wonderful students from different parts of India will be reading Kalyani's poems. I'll say fiery poems. And one link that already Dharani ma'am hinted at, actually, when I interviewed Bama in 2-3 times and which are available, and in a gap of 5-6 years time, and my latest interview with Bama, she says, I don't consider me as a feminist. I want to be known as a womanist. And similar question was asked to Kalyani, and Kalyani has the same focus on that, the Dalit Womanist writing, and I'm a Dalit Womanist. Womanist is, it covers more intersections in a society like us. And when we read Kalyani's poems, these poems are really magical. Magical means it's not that only we will read one section of society which are already predominant and the voices are available everywhere. But we know the other voices which are actually were not heard for a long, long time. And both together, we can think of one society. If we just think of one society and talk about one aspect of life, that is a partial living of any culture. For total cultural living, for knowledge about a society, and knowing all sorts of people, all sorts of language, all sorts of writings are very important tool for total learning as a part of education. I'm really fortunate that I know Kalyani for a long, long time, worked together. I mean, sat with Kalyani, shared spaces with Kalyani for a long, long time. In touch with Kalyani for a long time. And my regular faithful knowing with Kalyani, I think, knowledge with Kalyani, gave me the courage to work with Kalyani. That is one another aspect when we think of Dalit writings or marginal writings, how much you are close to that. How can you create your own space similar to the space you are translating? Because myself and Zinia, we have one space. We are all English professors, and our own language, our idioms, our traditions have given us a kind of set of tools which are unique to our academia. academic credentials. But when we apply them to Kalyani, these poems, I think it's a challenge. It should not be an act of sanitization. It should not be an act of, removing all our personal elements in poetry. That was a big challenge and threat. And I, at the very outset, claim that it is not a definite translation. Translation means there are other ways to look at the poems, read the poems, and translate in another way. We have
আমি
tried
এনেছি
from
আমি
our own
মিটিংয়ে
ways
বসেছি আমি নিয়ে
to
কেউ নেয়নি
come closer to the text as much as practically possible. Without much delay, I'm really excited to listen to the panelists and joining from different parts of India and contributing to Dalit writings and marginal writings, the India, one brand of Indianness that is together. And thank you for joining from different parts of India and the students and faculty members, professors, all writers joining from different parts of India for this feast of knowledge, because sharing of knowledge is living in totality. Thank you all. We have the publisher with us as well, and for taking the challenge of publishing the book and the cover, everything. We find it very elegantly done. Thank you. And Bengali Dalit writings, in a way, I think those who are outside Bengal is more than 100 years old. But translation started so late, it could not reach the other parts of India and the world for a long, long time. And it's a matter of only 10, 15 years time when India Bengali Dalit writings are translated into English. We need more shoulders and more heads and hearts to be part and parcel for the translation, act of translation, to make it more vibrant and visible across the globe. Thank you so much. Don't miss out. It's an important body of literature. Thank you. Over to Vasudhara.
Thank you very much. And that was very well said, especially when you talk about the idea of and the difficulties that beset translation. You mentioned the sanitization, or whether we call it homogenization, or whether we call it sterilization, what to keep and what to retain, and how to retain what we are willing to retain. I feel that in that context, though I'm unable to access the poems in their original language, I believe that in the English language, they retain the rage and the politics that they should retain as a piece of writing that comes from the Dalit feminist or womanist standpoint. So I particularly admire that, that containment of rage allied with the aesthetics of poetry. So thank you very much for translating this wonderful book. And to talk about it, we of course have a wonderful panel. So without much delay, I would like to invite Professor Maya Pandit, who needs no introduction to the world of letters, who is a well-known translator, theatre activist, and a former professor of FLU. So we are very grateful, ma'am, that you are here with us as part of the panel today. And over to you for your ideas on the book. You'll have to unmute. Yes.
Thank you, Vasudha. Thank you very much for inviting me here in Jaydeep. I always pronounce your name as Jaydeep in the Marathi style, but it's
yes, I am Jaydeep, but this is don't read this name like this. Joy, it is Jaydeep. Yes.
It was really wonderful to talk to you, Jaydeep, and of course to read Kalyani ma'am's poems. And it's really a wonderful experience because having come from Marathi, where Dalit writing is a very central, I'm getting calls in between. God. Now the lights have gone off. But anyway.
We can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I just sit this way maybe. Yeah. Can you see me?
Yes, yes, perfect.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. The point is, Kalyani's poems are really wonderful, and she's very articulate about the what she has suffered in her life, and not just her, right? She reminds me of Alice Walker. She reminds me of Maya Angelou. She also reminds me of various things in Marathi writers, Marathi Dalit writers, which is amazing, really, because Um, uh, because there are so many similarities and yet so many differences between what she says and what, say, for example, Marathi Dalit women say in their poetry. And I was amazed to see, I'll talk about some of the similarities first. And I think, Joydeep, you and Kalyani have, I mean, I'm sorry, um, the your co-translator is
Zinia,
Zinia.
Zinia, Zinia.
Yeah, Zinia. You really have done a great service to, translated literature, especially translated Dalit literature, because there is an amazing kind of data available here for students. And I think when she quotes Alice Walker saying that, she's capable of reflecting then the wholeness and an essential inclusivity, which is what she includes as qualities in womanist writing. And I think Kalyani's poetry is a very good instance of this. So I think she probably is trying to sort out this division between the public and the private in some of her poems. Yet she seems to include most of the Dalit women, not just Bengali, most of the Dalit women in her writing, which I find a very, very interesting fact, because, in spite of the differences between cultures, between languages, uh, there is a common thread of being a Dalit and looking at the world in particular ways. And that is where I find, um, you know, Joydeep, can I speak for 5, 7 minutes?
Yeah, sure, 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 sure.
So I talk about the similarities first, and then I'll go on to the differences that I find between Kalyani and especially the Marathi um, uh, poets, Dalit poets, women poets especially. Uh, when she says we are yet to find new roads, new ways of struggling to find new directions, she's exactly echoing Hira Bansode in Marathi, where she also talks about the same thing. She talks about Dalit women whose sort of izzat is at stake every time something happens in the society. Um, she also talks about the ladder which is repaired by the unlawful carpenters, uh, by which she's talking about the caste system. Laborers, as Dr. Ambedkar said. He also said that, unless each woman in the society is capable, I will not say that we have achieved our aim. I won't call that human civilization, which really is an amazing statement. Um, yeah, I've taken down some lines as examples of the poetry, which I wish I could quote the Marathi poets on this. Mainly, I'm taking Chaya Koregaonkar and Pradnya Pawar and, Hira Bansode, as I said, and sometimes Urmila Pawar as well. Um, so I won't quote the Marathi lines because, it will sound like a research paper, so, which I don't want to sound at all. But, she also talks about the imagery that she uses in her poetry. I mean, obviously, it's a very, very political kind of writing, and the politics is reflected in the kind of imagination that she represents in her poetry. Say, for instance, mother, river, fish, especially, are very common images, and she talks about, um, I love this. A calf runs for the playground, runs with tail up, free to the horizon. where the green um, forest with cloud with colors of a broken slate. A very, very visual kind of imagery, which is also a characteristic feature of Pradnya Pawar's poetry, Pradnya Daya Pawar's poetry. There are so many similarities, in fact, that I was really amazed to see. Like, how can somebody think, some people from two different cultures altogether think similarly about things is something that she also says, I'm a freedom seeker sent off on a boat alone, flowing beyond rivers and seas. Now, this imagery also uh, can be seen reflected in the poetry of Chaya Koregaonkar. You know, loneliness is another constant and recurring theme in her. And this loneliness is not the loneliness of the middle class, lower middle class woman from a Maharashtrian family, because there are lots of women poets who've talked about their loneliness. But this is a loneliness that arises out of the social ostracism, out of the caste system, out of the way she has been branded as a Dalit, and she's all the limits of her life are sketched out in this. And now, this kind of loneliness you feel in Pradnya Pawar so feelingly that sometimes I was feeling that she is translating or sharing thoughts with Pradnya on the issue of loneliness. The destruction and oppression of the Dalits, the Rahus that come in the way of freedom of the Dalits, unfulfillment, frustration, be mechanical, the on the ladder of success. Now, life is a measure by what we cannot get. I burn myself in flames of unfulfilled desires. Now, this issue about desires is something I would like to extensively talk about, but I won't, because I'm very much aware that I've been allotted specific minutes, and I think I've covered half of them. But that challenge, that challenge of winning over the desires which are not allowed by the society, but her individual fire has created, ignited those desires. Maybe it's education, maybe it's reading Ambedkar, maybe it's facing the challenges of life in her own way, which is, as per her autobiographical statement, is a tremendous achievement that she's made. And when she talks about those challenges, they are physical challenges, they're psychological challenges, they're social and political challenges, and that aggression in her poetry is something which I loved absolutely. Um, I'll just mention two more points and then I'll come to the differences. Um, mm, the image of the bird that sings in Maya Angelou's poem and the image of finally the bird took its flight in Kalyani's poetry, I think they're quite similar. In fact, uh, race and caste come together in very amazing ways in the poetic imagination of this poet. And I was, there is a lot of irony also in this poem. I'm like jumping from, please forgive me. Um, um, you know, she is very ironic at times. For instance, she says, I'll have to remember that there is no Dalit in Bengal. Now, obviously, this has been said so many times, and you really can't believe it. I mean, it's the same system everywhere. So Bengal must have the Dalit castes in various different ways, names, and they must be bound by the same, kind of theory that Ambedkar talks about. They must have come into existence in the same way. The division of labor, and it's the division of the laborers. Um, then caste as small classes, he says, that is something very interesting, which I find with Kalyani, that she almost replicates the thoughts of Ambedkar. Of course, in poetic language, it's not directly translated from Ambedkar's writing, because as she says, she doesn't have uh, those many volumes of Ambedkar in Bengali or in English also, because I think they are not very much available everywhere. They should be, actually. It should be the Bhagavad Gita of everybody, or the Zenda Vista, or the Bible. But we must read that, and she has, uh, you know, uh, And she also, this ironicity, I love these lines. I have no country, I have no flags. We are the undocumented people. I mean, this is like, a common thread in all the Dalits, that they don't have the land, and especially the women poets who feel that they are part of a land which has been conquered and, by others. Um, it could be the patriarchal forces within the caste structure, outside of the caste structure, but that is there. And this um, uh, a tall tree turning to bonsai, again, shrinking of individuals to, artificial looking trees, and thing of, decoration. um, Dalits are things of decoration in our society, because when some foreign people come, they are paraded with their different costumes and different arts, and they are shown as, the Bharat Utsav. um, the artisans came from various Dalit communities, and after the program is over, these showpieces are thrown into the darkness once again. So, that sentiment is something which is tremendous and which is very appealing. It's a anger. It's amazing, the way she does it, and in such, even in translation, the force comes through. So I don't know Bengali. I think I should learn Bengali. I've got a daughter-in-law who's a Bengali, so I think I'll sit down and learn these poems from her once again. But the English translations are really terrific, and that spirit came through. Now, in 2 minutes, I would like to talk about the differences. Most of the Dalit women writers in Maharashtra, and this is something that I find Bama and, who's that other writer? Um, oh God, this Dalit writer. They are different from Marathi in one aspect, and that one aspect is that, um, the Marathi Dalit women have a tremendous sense of political um, uh, uh, um, grouping. They look at themselves as soldiers in Ambedkar's army of, people who will change the world. Now, that sense of solidarity with other women, other Dalit women, and I mean, even Kalyani talks about, a common Dalit women's identity in her poetry, but the sense of political solidarity with other women and the sense of agency that the Marathi Dalit poets have, Marathi Dalit women poets have, is something which is I find differentiates their poetry from Kalyani's poetry. And of course, which is like, I don't know whether Kalyani belongs to a political organization which was as huge as the Dalit movement, because Dalit women have a whole history of participation in the Saudar Talai Satyagraha and in, temple entry agitations, and then later on, in the Dharmantar, when they accepted Buddhism as their religion, and all of these things. And Ambedkar was very, very particular that women should be a part of his army, and therefore women in hordes, in huge numbers. And he told them how to dress up, how to behave, how to get married, how not to crave for uh, you know ornaments and stuff like that, how to raise their children with education. And this had a tremendous impact on the Marathi Dalit poetry, women's poetry as well as the men's, of course, but that comes through very transparently in, Dalit writers, and especially women writers. Now, I find I probably don't know anything else. I haven't read anything else by Kalyani, since it's in Bengali and language I don't know. But if you can translate that, or if you can explain it to me, why that difference exists. You had the Namashudra movement, but hasn't probably been as strong as the Maharashtrian Dalit movement. So maybe there is a difference of that participation in public programs and public, uh, these various programs that they undertook. And the sense of self that expanded into a sense of agency, a solidarity with other women, that is something that I don't find even in Bama's writing and in Kalyani's writing. Whatever I have read, of course, I don't know their work. I don't know the whole of it, and it may be my misconception. So please forgive me, Kalyani, if I'm pointing out this difference to you, but I need to know more, and I'm quite ignorant about this. So if Joydeep, you and Kalyani and Zinia can explain this to me, I'll be very, very grateful. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity of talking about Kalyani's poetry. I probably overshot my time limit, so I'm really sorry for that.
Thank you
Please go.
so much. It was really wonderful. You mapped things so well, and as you always do. And it was pure learning. And very importantly, you pointed out the differences. We'll be taking that maybe later on. And now from Maharashtra, let's move on to Professor Dharani from Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. And we have already referred to Bama. So, Professor Dharani, the stage is yours. And she is a noted scholar, as we have already introduced. Her PhD work was on Dalit, Bama, and Tani Marishan, and she has worked extensively, and she is a professor of English in a college over there. Over to Professor Dharani, please.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you are able to hear me. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. You are
Okay.
audible.
Okay. So, first of all, I congratulate the poet and the translators for a wonderful, amazing work. Because of these kind of translations only, we are able to get such literature for research and for doing all publications. Because even Bama's work was in Tamil, originally in Tamil, and it was translated into English by Lakshmi Armstrong. And we met the translator, Lakshmi Armstrong. What she said was, it was very difficult to translate because that angle, it is not like any other type of literature where you are just translating the idea. This is actually emotional. So the writing of these kind of writers or the Dalits, actually, I don't want to like segregate them as Dalit writers. They are writers, they are expressing their emotions. And what I read is, as a woman, what I find is a woman's view of the world, of various things that I could not find. So as far as the poet is concerned, I just left all those labels like social, political, Dalit, all these things I removed, and I was just going through like a formal criticism. I applied formal criticism, like new criticism. Didn't want to just look at the book from Dalit writers' point of view or the non-Dalit point of view. Those things will actually give us preconceived notions about how you would look at a Dalit writer, how you would interpret the views of the Dalit. All those things will be like different. Because when I was reading Bama's, it was like what I could find was she was just overflowing with emotions, so many emotions, like mixed emotions. She was not able to segregate. So actually, like any other mainstream writer, they could segregate. So first I talk about this. I use this better language. I use this kind of word. I choose like a writer, lyricist is in a hotel room, okay, in a five-star hotel, and he's writing a lyric. That is not so. So it's like overflowing with emotion. So that is like coming out like spontaneous overflow of powerful emotions. That is what I could find in Bama, but that was not approved by many people. Bama's writings are not up to the mark because she was using a casual language, a colloquial language, slum language, all those things. But because I could read both Tamil and the translation, I could understand her better because I'm a Tamilian. And here I don't have any access to Bengali, but still I could understand the concepts that is expressed through the translation. So I have to give like hats off to the translators, but I don't have any access to the Bengali. As ma'am said, if I could read original, that would be better, like Tagore's poems. Okay, so here I have gone through some concepts that I would like to discuss here. I'll just take 2 or 3 minutes. I don't want to take much of my time, but this book is worth discussing for hours together. But still, so this is actually a woman's a humanist point of view, more than womanism. Alice Walker's womanism. This is humanism. So, what as a human being, how do you feel about so many things around you? Either you're oppressed or you're given some social status, whatever it is. A woman is a woman, in spite of being working woman, a professional woman, whatever, a writer, whatever might be your label, but you are still having some um, uh, predicament as women. So here I could just go through and I could get some, collect some points. So this is actually, as ma'am said, she's giving a call, early bird call to the people who are still lazy, lethargic about their status in the society. And there, here and there, I find that exploitation of Dalit sympathizers, politicians, they are using Dalits for their victory. All those things I could find some political changes there, and moral, social, all those things. Apart from this, what I could find as a person of literature is it's abundant with imagery. So many images. I don't know about the original, but in translation, I could find the imagery, and it's like very, very, very attractive. So I can see that four rivers and five habitations. So I was thinking of that Australia poem, where like five cities. They are actually five cities, or they are actually spoiled by human beings. In the same way, she talks about four rivers and five habitations. But I am not able to understand the exact meaning of this phrase. The translator has to help me. I'm sorry. So because I am not aware of the rivers and the geographical background, habitations, what she means. But I was attracted towards this, and she actually says you are to cross a few more miles. So she actually motivates people to cross few more miles. It is like an optimistic approach. So you just carry on. Don't stop there. You just carry on. And when it comes to imagery, she says, dry leaves like a slimy snake. And these imageries are like very, very clear, and it is very easy to understand. Okay, and she says words uttered by time. So you will get success by the words uttered exactly by the time, so the exact time, and it will bring you success. And she's telling like sky peeps through like a village boy. The village boy is shy, and he's peeping through some kind of like backdrop. And she says sky peeps through the village boys. And she says, my life moves beyond a field, and you have that mountain, hills, rivers. So here again, the landscape imagery is it's replete. The poems are replete with landscape imagery. I find like mountains. When I was reading Black Hill, Mamangais, it was full of mountain imagery, and I was like, I was very much fascinated by the imagery of mountain, because we are not very close to mountain except Ooty, Nilgiris. So it is like river. She talks about rivers, fish, the kinds of fish. So that is like very, very interesting to know. And take your boat and move ahead. Take your boat and go. Okay, so freedom, the sense of freedom she discusses. And I am a freedom seeker. Okay, no God to God the border. So she says, no God to God the border. So there is a border, that no God. So that would be a kind of like utopia, I must say. So there is nobody to guard the border. If it is there, then there won't be any battle between the countries. Would be happier. So I'm a freedom seeker, and I don't want my country to be guarded by the gods, soldiers, and dream girl waiting for the prince. So this is like any fairy tale, a dream girl waiting for the prince. And she has brought in mythology also, like Ragu swallowing sun, the eclipse. That is given in a very, very interesting way. And Ragu lacks digestive power. That's very like humorous. So a sense of humor. Okay, it's very nice, like subtle humor. So I don't find like it is full of like rage, protest. Not that, not always. Literature can be assessed like we should not go with the idea that this should be like about her problems, her issues. No, she has a sense of humor. She has that imagery in her mind. Her viewpoint about the world around the thing, about the things around her, all those are amazing. And rain-drenched day. So this is always a dream of any woman or any person. In a rain-drenched day, you should have a cup of coffee, and you should have the best book in your hand, and you should have a corner in your home, and you should look at the rain, You should be very comfortable, and you have to see the rain. Now it's very dry here. You really like, when I was reading that, I really wanted to see rain. So that is like, it's like very pictorial, the thing is. And might grows in the ladder of success. So only some people are going, like those who are utilizing the Dalits, those are utilizing the marginalized people, they are growing up. And another thing is color imagery. She has made use of color imagery. She says green grass and red blood. So she is able to like mix green, red, all this color imagery is given very well. I'm just giving only samples. I was going through and I've written a lot. I really want to discuss. And personification is very much. She says, tired night goes away. So night like death, be not proud, as John Donne says. Okay, tired night goes away. And flower is the identity of the rose plant, not the thoughts. So this optimistic ideas, I like very much about this optimism. So not always the issues. And she has brought in the Sundarban deities. So the deities, names of the deities is given in the footnotes. I have to know more about them. And the Sundarban deities, and there are a lot of objects related to fire. Maybe she talks about the issues. So furnace, and she talks about like I fall bloody on my bed. So it is like reminding me of Shelley's I fell upon the thorn, I bleed. So like every human has some limitation or the other. So as she says, I fall bloody on my bed. So that issues, my pain, my angst, that makes me bleeding. Okay, same emotion I could find in Shelley also. And like any other woman, she says, like every woman has this, but many, they don't express. If home exists, will it bind me once more? Home is always a prison for us. Really, every woman, like even in spite of being very like developed, everything, you really want to go away from your home. Like how Sakya Muni did. Buddha went away easily, just like that, leaving away his wife, his daughter, his son, his kingdom. But we can't go. If a woman wants to walk out, you have to take care of the family. You have to do everything for them, and then you have to go. So that is like a planned one. But she says, if home exists, will it bind me once more? Home is again a binding object for me. So it binds me. So she says, I burn every day, jumping into the burning fire. There were no treatment for the burnt wounds. Okay, so smell of roast lungs. So all, I think the students are going to read the poems, but still, these are the things that are very, very like inspiring for women like us. Okay, a woman who want to go away from the confinement, shackles. Okay, so shackles that we find in the society. So this is very much inspiring. And again, she says, "Don't adorn me as a moon on your head, Chandra too. I want to be a normal human being." So either you glorify women, or you say you are a witch or bitch. So you go to two extremes. You either glorify, you are a goddess, you are Shakti, that extreme. Otherwise, you call her, no, she's good for nothing. She is not there is a thing called you are like very homely. I don't like the term homely. What do you mean by homely? We're not made for homes. Home, we are taking care of home. That is a part of our thing, but not always. We are homemakers. Okay, we have our own dreams. We have our own ideas. Okay, and we have our own radical extremist ideas. But people might think that you are a witch and you are doing black magic. So she's very, very, she's very like radical, I must say. And I really love those things. And she's not bothered about her wounds. Again, she wants to go up. And as ma'am said, she is not bothered about the directions. Okay, I don't have any. I don't need to face east or west. No borders. Nothing. I'm free from everything. So that is. So if you really want to confess it, you need a lot of courage. So that kind of courage I could see in the poems of Madam Kalyani. And I stand facing neither north nor south. Okay, and she's mentioning about the borders, borderless country, all those things. So these things are very, very like inspiring. And regarding the translations, and the translations are wonderful, because I could find that I could directly read a English poem, not a translated one, except for the terms, that Bengali terms like Shakya Muni, and for that, so I think the translators have given the footnotes. That's a great thing. And some cultural things are a little bit intriguing that might, like, I can discuss later. So one or two, or like as you said, the rivers, and the context, and for whom the poems are written, the audience, target audience. If that is specified in the foreword, or somewhere in the poems, it would be like better for a person like a Tamilian like me to understand. Because though we are in India, we follow two different cultures. So the cultural, cross-cultural things. So I really appreciate the poems, madam. Thank you. And this is going to be a great thing for us, because I'm just going to ask my scholars to do paper publications, presentations on your poems. And if possible, in future, if there is time, I would like to translate them into Tamil, possible. And thank you for giving me this chance.
Thank you so much, Dharani ma'am. Thank you so much joining even the busiest schedule that you are facing. Thank you for wonderful aspects that you covered, and the encouragement that you actually listed, that by a possible translation in Tamil. That is very amazing, because
Actually,
translation
I translated Anna Bahusate's.
Anna Bahusate you translated.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
actually, Baliram sir gave me that assignment. I already completed. The problem is the printing side is in Mumbai, so that person may not be knowing Tamil. So if there are any changes to be done, either I have to be in Mumbai, or somebody should come here. That printing is by their university somewhere like. So that problem, because of that, I have completed everything, all the chapters, and I enjoyed. But it was from English to Tamil.
I understand.
Not directly from Marathi, because I don't know Marathi. So from Baliram Sir's translation, Marathi to English to. So it might be like doubly estranged, but I have maintained the spirit. I have just followed the spirit, and I have brought in. And it was very very nice to read, because again, there comes the cultural problems. The coconut body they're carrying, that kind of thing. So I asked Baliram sir for the meaning of everything. That is the only thing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for.
Thank you, Professor Dharani, for your suggestion. We'll keep in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this was a wonderful discussion where two scholars from different linguistic positions talk about a text which again is new to them, linguistically new to them, but they are able to identify the commonalities of culture because of this wonderful act of translation. So we are very delighted that this very insightful discussion could happen here. And to talk more about the book, particularly the nuances of translation, the practical problems that the translators might have faced, also the kind of vision that they brought, to this particular poems, because every translation, I think, is dominated or motivated by some kind of a vision. And that vision informs every poem, and also the selection would also follow or be a part of that vision. So I would like to invite Zinia, Mitra to talk about the translation process, to talk about the making of the Poems of Chandalini. So Zinia, over to you.
Thank you, Basudhara. Dhanyabad. Hearth Within is a platform unfailing in its support towards the poets. I cannot forget how this platform helped us connect during the COVID times. Also thankful for that grand session I remember on Jayanta Mahapatru. I thank Hearth Within for giving me this opportunity this evening to say a few words, for organizing this event around this important text, Chandalini Kobita, translated as Poems of Chandalini. I read in the poster about making of the poem and about also Basudhara has mentioned, asked me to talk about the process. So I'll try to talk about, part of the process that the translation project involved. So Kalyani, of course, needs no introduction. She is a well-known name today, an important Dalit voice, Dalit womanist, founder of Need. Looking back, if I talk about the process that this translation project involved, looking back, it was an unforgettable and enjoyable project. Enjoyable not only because it involved the most difficult task, perhaps the most difficult task in the world, task of translating poetry. Also enjoyable because it was a great learning process for me. I learned at every step. Jaydeep was talking of us sharing a common space that made things partially easier. We have read about discriminations. We deal with representations of women in literature. All of us, women, have experienced discriminations sometime or other in our lives. Being a student of literature, with feminism as my core research area, we read about discrimination, reflect on them, write on them, and suddenly here I was working with Kalyani Thakur Charal and her poetry that was born out of her lived experiences. Jaydeep and myself actually talked about translating Kalyani for quite some time before we embarked on this project. Jaydeep, we all know, is a bilingual poet, and I'm sure you all are aware of Tista Review of our journal, where Jaydeep is the chief editor and Basudhara ma'am is also on the editorial board. We had many long telephone conversations and meetings before we actually took up the project. I must thank Birut Jatiyo Sahitya সম্মেলনী Shantiniketan for this wonderful publication. Parantapa Babu, I think he has joined us today, who personally looked into this book, was kind enough to listen to and edit all the revised final manuscripts we sent him. The cover page was done by the publishing house designer at the suggestion of Parantapa. So if you look closely at the cover page, you will see that it carries the design of a traditional sari with a red border that was conventionally worn by the upper caste Bengali women during rituals and festivals, which the Dalit women had no access to. Sometimes they were debarred from entering the premises where such rituals were observed on the basis of their caste. We have its reflection in poem 33 in the volume. Also, there were many discriminatory rituals and observations against women when women were robed in this traditional red bordered sari. So the red bordered sari becomes a symbol for tradition on one hand and also of all the discriminations that women have suffered. So before we began the project, we had a meeting in New Alipur College, Kolkata, and Jaydeep, Kalyani, myself, we had a long conversation. The personality of Kalyani has always struck me as very distinct. Now, translation involves rendering words from one language into another. That involves a kind of transcreation, a term that Pilal was particularly fond of. So translations that are just word-to-word renderings from SL to TL often fail to carry the message across. Therefore, most of the machine translations fail. Human translations remain the most reliable and most accurate form of translation available. And I could clearly understand why through this process of translating Kalyani, because my empathy grew as I read her, because of my involvement in the process, because I felt Kalyani's words like raindrops against my skin. I mean to say, I was alive to her poems. In translating Kalyani, one is confronted with the whole history of oppression, which guides her words. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
So Jaydeep and myself, we have remained faithful to the text. So I must admit here that Kalyani's vocabulary was new to me. Her vocabulary carries what we may call Dalit consciousness that encapsulates the experience of exploitation and helplessness, giving voice to anger that is the central voice in many of her poems. We find anger, we find resistance, we find urgency and a frustrating sense of waiting. The last poem of the volume, for instance, calls Wake Up, Black Men and Women. And poem 4 says, we are yet to find new roads, new ways, struggling to find new directions. Go back, future Redeemer. The time has not arrived for rebirth. So I will talk of a little bit of, a few of the challenges we have faced during the translation. আমি একটা এক্সাম্পল দেব পোয়েম নাম্বার 6 থেকে। যদি অরিজিনাল বইটা কারোর কাছে থাকে, ইউ ক্যান জাস্ট হ্যাভ আ লুক। বাঁ দিক বা ডান দিকে কাত হয়ে ফাতনার মতো ভাসছে সমাজ। এখানে we stumbled here. First, we translated it as a curved fishing rod. Then we went for the curved float. Then we changed it to slanted fatna. We kept fatna as it is to keep the rootedness of the poem. And I was faced with a question: how do we translate Dalit consciousness? In Kalyani's brief life that is translated and appended to the volume, she talks of children of Dalit families. They are not liable, but also they add to the income of the family. So while translating this line, I was confronted with the question again: how do we translate Dalit consciousness? The sincere translator that I want to be, I want to become, I wanted the authorial voice not to get intertwined with the translating self. The universe, we know, has many eyes, and the act of successful translation is obliterating one such eye. There are no punctuations in Kalyani's poems, no pauses, no white spaces in between, but there are enjambments, line breaks, also metaphors, allusions to major cultural events. Her form is a rejection of the conventional poetic form, and therefore translation becomes all the more challenging. Native language, we know, is born out of native culture. Therefore, culture-specific words do not exist in other languages. It may be possible to translate such words into another vernacular of the same cultural background, but if it is a language of foreign origin, although English here has now become Indianized and it is no more that stiff upper-lipped kind of English, but it may be nearly impossible to effect such a transaction, and the difficulty is multiplied. Therefore, we kept the words like Patna, Rahu, Ogoru, Tol, Bondi, Khinrai, Charal, Dome in the original. In the volume, you will find many original words, also because we have been as faithful as possible. And interestingly, these words also resist translations. These words that resist translations work as tools that enable the subaltern language penetrate the dominant language. They act to subvert the hierarchy of culture. So by refusing to change, they erect a wall of resistance, just as Kalyani's poems are a resistance to the hegemony both in form and structure. Sujit Mukherjee, I'll just refer to him before I close, a pioneer of translation studies in India, described translation as both discovery and recovery. because literature in the process of translation gets discovered for people who are unfamiliar with the source language and source culture and are recovered from archives of anonymity. Here was no recovery because Kalyani is contemporary and active, but of course there was discovery. Professor Narkar has pointed out the similarities and differences with other Dalit women poets, and that was a discovery too. Professor Dharani has also spoken of emotions and images. That was again another discovery. And Professor Narkar's question has opened a field for further query and research, which is again a process of discovery. So my thanks to Kalyani for giving me this opportunity. এই প্রজেক্টে আমাকে যুক্ত করার জন্য অনেক ধন্যবাদ. I will take this opportunity also to thank the publisher, Porantop Babu, Birut Jatiyo Sahitya সম্মেলনী, for their wonderful work. Thanks to Tista Review for the wonderful book launch. The warm memory of it lingers. And I thank all who participated in the book launch hosted by Tista Review. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zinia. That was a very, very interesting introduction to the book and to the journey of that brought the book into being. And most importantly, I must confess that I loved the cover very much, and the way you articulated the politics of the cover, that really makes it more significant. Because I haven't ever come across a book with a cover as appealing as this, and also as potently voicing its agenda as this particular cover did. So thank you very much. And I think that it's time that we heard a few poems from the collection. And in order to begin the poetry reading session, I would like to invite first Agastya Chakraborty. Agastya Chakraborty from Ramakrishna Mission, Narendrapur. I invite you to read your poem.
Good evening, everyone. I am Agastya Chakraborty, as introduced. I'm from Ramakrishna Mission, Narendrapur. For today's reading, I've chosen poems 25 and 34 from the book. And I'll begin with poem 25, apologies. I am your night's bed, mist of the bed. All hazy stars fall in love, slowly, slowly. I am that flame, all logs set to fire, collecting the trees. I fall bloody on my bed. I am your clay lamp, burnt cotton, the girl's fate, her sad eyes in a marriage attire. I am your birth-hungry Gramborto by Kongal. News on the first page made into pieces for keeping nuts in the opposite side, with picture written, bride in newlywed attire, a wife committed suicide. That was the 25th poem, and now for the 34th poem. You promised me so much, but all you got me was a sky full of sorrows that fall like stars from outer space every night. As a son of the house, you did fine. What was the reason for your leaving? That too secretly. Why did you start the 1,000 night stories under the open sky? Go, tell a star what you're thinking. Tell her that all of us are sad here. We don't call the moon our home. Tell her that existence in this world is inhumane in itself. Why do make them dream? You can tell them in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Agastya, for your wonderful reading. I would next like to invite Ashiki Bondopadhyay from St. Xavier's University, Kolkata.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you for having me here. Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you. So, the first poem I chose, I was thrilled by reading the pieces, I must say. Incredible pieces, ma'am. So, the first poem I am honored to read is the 37th poem. I have slept beside the furnace, lulled by the hammer and burning iron prattle. I ran from one end to another like a shuttle in a weaver's room. I was the plough of the plough. I have touched the distant horizon I have repeated the entire harvest. I have plowed a field that stretched all the way and touched the horizon in order to end our dearth of food. Yet I have to witness armless oil in my family. We are to distribute red ants' white eggs like rice. Children nourished only by such food take up bows and arrows, with lacking apprehension of the deeper meaning of revolution. They face the gun tube. The next poem was the 47th one, ma'am. The Kayastha girl is a bride of a Brahmin household. Her mother in law does not savor dishes cooked by her, but she harbors this opinion about the tribal colleagues. She is my junior, but where she sits in the hierarchy, as if her sin. Flouting constitutional rights, she exacts her vegans on her, but she overlooks that her boss, that Badya born, has jumped over at least 10 others from that Borobabu post in an unconscionable manner and got his promotion. Men do not hesitate to squeeze their palms in compliance. If this man gets an opportunity, he will also go their way. This virus is spread by the so called trade union leaders, because in this country, by an unwritten constitution, the trade union leaders belong to high caste. They pressurize, make place for their friends in reserved posts, evading the law. Is it only them? The political leaders, too, have filled up the reserved posts with other castes, with their mellow hands. RTI will bring will you no results because all documents have been destroyed. They must have learned from their forefathers that enemies should be eliminated. Thank you very much. I had goosebumps while reading these.
Thank you. Thank you. That was so beautifully read. And from here, we move on to Christy. Our third speaker is Christy Helen, who's joining us from Holy Cross College, Trichy. Christy, over to you for your reading.
Good evening to one and all gathered here. I'm Christy Helen from Holy Cross College, Trichy, and I'd like to say that it's my pleasure to read these poems. So the poems I have chosen to read today are poem 11 and 29. So here we go. Poem 11. I'm a freedom seeker, therefore sent off the boat alone, flying beyond rivers and seas to a foreign land. No God to guard the border. The boat alone will move from one shore to another, ferrying freedom seeking men. Poem 29. Memories written time and again through lazy floating clouds in a dusky spring afternoon of life. The endless sky is filled with hues, bright and enchanting like open windows, boundless and free. The breeze from the south gently passes through the gray patches of my hair. Ah, love still knocks my door at the end of the day, I realize. A never-ending search grapples my hollow memories as I watch time fade away since twilight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christy. Wonderful reading. Uh, I would next like to invite Krishna Priya R. Pillai, who's also from Holy Cross College, Trichy. Krishna Priya, over to you.
A very good evening to everyone present here. I hope I'm audible.
Wow, yes.
Um, to say I was very much amazed and overwhelmed to read the poem, and it has been an eye-opening to a variety of ideas in my mind. Um, and I'll be reading the poems 18 and 26. So I'll begin with the poem 18. Fragrant lime morning, red bamboo leaf morning. Golden sun rays morning, green carpet, field morning yet. To uplift the mind I run towards you, because you are the reason for a damp mind, Breathing in and breathing out are not up for that. With a tired mind, I return to my bed's corner. Then rapidly murmur, nothing has happened. All is well. Nothing has happened till nothing has happened. All is well. To the 26th poem. I am running, sailing against the hardest obstacles of life, running in the opposite, running, running. No, none of you will be able to stop me from running so fast. You once thought I would break, but here I am running, carrying the wounds caused by the stones and bricks you threw at me. Blood is oozing out from my body, yet I am running. The left side of my chest hurts. Every chest hurts on the left. Still we manage to utter, stay well. Let me run. I will not break. Sometimes I leave my wet pillow under the sun to dry. Sometimes I dry it myself with an iron for tomorrow night. Stay well, be good. Please let me run. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna Priya. Thank you very much. Our next reader is Moshumi Hazra from University of North Bengal. Over to you, Moshumi.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes. So, hello everyone. I am Moshumi Hazra, a research scholar from the Department of English, University of North Bengal. Firstly, I would like to wholeheartedly thank the Hearth Within for organizing this amazing association of poets, translators, readers from different part of the country around this immensely impactful book, Poems of Chandalini. I have chosen two poems, poems number 33 and 52. And here I begin with poem number 33. My grandfather was prohibited from stepping into the toll premises. My father became literate using palm leaf and ink of charcoal after a long struggle. My mother visited Durgabari with cow dung on her left hand to paste on the place where she would stand. Oh God, cow dung is holier than the touch of a Dalit. My gentle colleagues enjoy using abusive terms, chamar, charal, and dome, daily. They have forgotten that these terms are names of different castes and communities of India. With all this, I will have to remember there is no Dalit in Bengal. Dalits are everywhere in the world, not here. That caste discrimination exists everywhere, not here. They throttle our throat, train us to say, we are all equal, no caste stratification here. By trickery, they are taking away provisions for reservation after one generation. They force us and say, if you claim reservations in the private sector, we shall erase your father's name from your memory. Repeat, we need no more. We have got everything. The next one is poem number 52, which I personally love. So here I begin. I had known a tall tree. How did it turn into a bonsai after this many years? If the one who was to provide shelter hides under the shade of an umbrella, it is indeed disheartening. After that dense forest, the stable terrace is rather unsuitable, and I feel the eyes that longed for a tall tree will never desire a bonsai. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Moshumi. That was a beautiful reading. At Moshumi, we move over to Shabdaparna Ghosh from St. Xavier's University, Kolkata. Shabdaparna, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
You are, yes.
That was such an enriching discussion before the poetry reading session started, and it will be my pleasure to read the poems. So I have chosen poem number 27 and 30. I would like to begin by poem number 27. Sons of swine have set their dogs free behind the elephant. Elephant was walking on the road silently. As he tilted his body a bit, the sons of swine have understood that their doom is near. The moment they stretched the buckles of their dogs, silence prevailed. In this manner, since time immemorial, the sons of swine have tried to torment the elephant by setting the dogs free. Now I move on to poem number 30, which I really like very much. I left my house long ago via Naktola Chhatro, Telinga Bagan, Maniktola, Fire Brigade, Gold Park, Narkeldanga to Kaiser Street, whose enticement drew me away from my home. Who knows? I have forgotten that. Where should I go now? Who knows? If home exists, will it bind me once more? I had answered to the call of the road, desiring the unknown. Alas, the unknown only calls, only calls. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shaptaparna, for your wonderful reading. I would next like to invite Soham Haldar from Ramakrishna Mission, Narendrapur. Soham, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Okay. Yeah. So hello. I'm Shoham Haldar from Ramakrishna Mission Residential College, Narendrapur. It's an incredible honor to read poems of Kalyani Thakur, and that too in her presence, and that of a number of incredible academics from across the country. I've chosen two poems from the book Poems of Chandalini. The first poem I've chosen is poem number 35. When you were blowing into the furnace, my lungs pulled out, and they are turned red like charcoal tikkas, because you wanted them pure like you like. I've applied a variety of ointments on my burnt lungs and sores, ointments of Dole Company and Dhaka Chandra Babu's, also the Bishari ointment sold on Gere local trains. There were no treatments that could alleviate the discomfort, only the smell of roast lungs filled the place. Even now, the pus persists and it bleeds. When the heaped up debris around me hides me, do you know what these burnt lungs say? Stay well, wherever you are and with whomever you are, stay well. The next poem is poem number 42. On the spread out palm leaf mattress in the courtyard, Ram Doyal Babu taught us English. One dim lit lamp bent over by 5 heads. We would spend the entire night, 4 or 5 together on one bed, with mother fanning us with her hand fan. There was no mattress. We would call it our home. Now, our houses are in different cities, separate beds, separate mattresses, separate mother and the children. They all went away to the new home suddenly. I now meet them after 10, 12 years. Last when I met them was 10 years ago before father died. We now meet in ones and twos, once in a blue moon. Some things are taking their leave too. Palm leaf trees, hurricane lamp, hand fan, mother. Alas. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Soham. Our next reader is Surabhi Laha, who is joining us from the University of North Bengal. Surabhi, over to you. Is Surabhi there? In that case, we will have Tunir Bagchi. Tunir, I invite you. Tunir is from St. Xavier's University, Kolkata, and I invite him to read his poems.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, today.
Good evening, everyone. I was really thrilled to read these poems. It is wonderful, and it was really very difficult for me to select these poems. Which poem should I read out of this? But I selected poems number 1 and 4. So I would like to read out poem number 1. We jump at them, even knowing that the leaders are drifting away from their ideal. Labor leaders benefit out of interests of the laborers. Dalit sympathizers rise to exploit the Dalits. Still, we trust ideals, and the optimistic minds are heard. Laborers and Dalits remain static. Masters and Dalit haters climb up steps of a ladder of success. We clap hands, knowingly or unknowingly. It's a hard time for the cheats and hypocrites. The middle class tolerates all crimes, negotiate with some interests. Why is it to make furor for nothing, exposing the crimes? Let them eat. Government will handle that. Alas, government. Who? Where do they live? Where do they live? Without fathoming, the opportunists go on saying. Even then, alone, we talk to them, wearing weary smiles. Poem number 4. Young men come and go, following the road very old, designed by us. Still, we think that the road was not right. We are yet to find new roads, new ways, struggling to find new directions. Go back, future Redeemer. Time has not arrived for rebirth. You are yet to cross a few more miles of the road. The end of the night will direct a new path. Now you sleep, young one. You have to wake up soon and creep through the dry leaves like a slimy snake. The words uttered by time will determine the right direction. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tunir. Is Surabhi here? In case.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Surabhi.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
sure.
you're audible, and I invite you to read your poems, please.
Thank you so much. So the poem I'm going to read, I have chosen two poems, poem number 23 and poem number 26. So first, I would like to begin with poem number 23. I am that girl who calls out the cheater friend, extending hands. I still wait. I am that girl opening my private parts, shouts, you come and cultivate the world. I am that woman who stand beside a fall and shout at you. You stay well. I will kill myself for cultivating the land. I roam about the boundless fields, fractured home is stitched well. I shall move to 7 seas and 13 rivers. I will flood you with SMS and calls between my sleepless nights and dreams, standing like a pendulum. The life you gave me, my dearest man. The next one is poem number 26. I am running, sailing against the hardest obstacles of life. Running in the opposite, running. No, none of you will be able to stop me from running so fast. You thought I'd break, and breaks you threw at me. Blood is oozing out from my body, yet I am running. The left side of my chest hurts. Every chest hurts on the left. Still, we manage to utter, stay well. Let me run. I will not break. Sometimes I leave my wet pillow under the sun to dry. Sometimes I dry it myself with an iron for tomorrow night. Stay well, be good. Please, let me run. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Surabhi. And I think it is befitting that this reading session should conclude with your very passionate reading of these two poems. So we had a wonderful reading session, but this is not complete until, of course, we talk to the publisher and to the author herself, who has been very kind to grace us with her presence this evening. I would like to invite the publisher of Poems of Chandalini, to talk about his experience in bringing out the book. Over to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to everyone, to the Hearth Within for organizing this, and it has been a wonderful panel. I mean, I'm learning again today. It was a long sort of process that Jaydeep and Zinia went through, which we could witness, because I think we got 3 versions of it, and I mean, it's important that because we are a publishing house that brings out a lot of translation, we are aware of the necessity of these revisions and how even apparently minor revisions are so important. So, I mean, we were happy to wait for them to finalize it, and I mean, it took us almost I think a bit more than 2 years to get the whole thing done. But I think that it was time well spent, and it was time that was necessary to you know, deal with the nuances of this kind of translation. And I have said something before, but I think it's important to say it again, that when we are translating Dalit literature, or for that matter, literature from any marginal or oppressed community, it is very important to remember that we have to be allies and not usurpers of the narrative. And that is where I think that my heartiest congratulations to Jaydeep and Zinia for greatly understanding that fine balance and executing it so well. And of course, I mean, you can never talk enough about Kalyani's work and how remarkable it is. And it is an absolute privilege to bring that out in English. So, I mean, I think that's... And of course, about the cover, it was designed by our friend Somjit Haldar, who teaches at St. Xavier's College in Bardhaman. And he asked me to send the poems over and went through it, and then send this design, which was instantly approved by everyone. So it's great that we came together to do this, and we look forward to doing more such work. And I would like to thank Jaydeep and Zinia for trusting us with this project. So thank you.
Big thank you, Pranta, for it was really wonderful journey together.
Yes.
Look forward to more such
Yes.
journeys in future.
Absolutely.
Over to Mashura.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I hope that there are such enterprising publishers who champion the cause of marginal literature from the country. So congratulations to you for thinking of this and for responsibly taking up this wonderful project. And I think that we now await the most interesting section of the session, and that is to have the author's perspective on her work and what she feels about whatever has been discussed today, or the translations as such. Kalyani, I would like to invite you to talk about your work.
And Kalyani, we cannot miss out without your recitation of at least a couple of poems that you can recite in Bangla. Kalyani.
Unmute করতে হবে Kalyani. There's an unmute button. একটা তলায় একটা বাটন, রেড কালারের একটা বাটন আছে মাইক শেপের, ওইটাতে ক্লিক করলে আনমিউট হবে।
I think I am audible.
You will have to read 2 poems, huh?
কবিতা পড়লেই হবে না?
হ্যাঁ, 2 মিনিট বলুন আর তারপরে একটু দুটো কবিতা পড়ুন।
কিছু বলতেও কিন্তু হবে।
শুনতেও চাই, শুধু
after reading you can conclude. That will be a final impression. No, with reading.
কবিতা নাম্বার 21, চন্ডালিনীর কবিতা নাম্বার 21। এটা খুব বাংলা কবিতাটাই কঠিন, এবং আমি অনেকবার বুঝিয়েছিলাম। আমি সবচেয়ে আগে থ্যাঙ্কস দেব জয়দীপ দাকে, তার সাথে জিনিয়া এবং পরন্তপকে, কারণ এরা প্রত্যেকের ফুল কোঅপারেশন, পরিশ্রম, আমার সাথে ডিসকাশন এবং রিপিটেডলি আমাকে ইনভলভ করা। জয়দীপ বাবু বারবার বলেছেন যে আপনার কোনো জায়গায় কোনো রকম অসুবিধা মনে হলে পরে বলুন, আমরা আবার ট্রান্সলেশন করব, যে যাতে ইমোশনটা ঠিক থাকে, মানে মেসেজটা যেন ঠিক ঠিক যায়। তো আমার একটু খুঁতখুঁতানি আছে, সেই জন্য আমি বারবার, এবং আমাকে বারবার পাঠানো হয়েছে যে আপনার যদি কোনো রকম কোনো জায়গায় অসুবিধে মনে হয় আবার করে দিন, সেটা বলুন যে এখানে আমরা কিরম ভাবে অন্য কোনো ওয়ার্ড বসাবো কিনা। এত সুযোগ, মানে এত স্পেস দেওয়া রাইটারকে, ট্রান্সলেটার অনেক সময় দিয়েছেন ওরা আমাকে সেইটা ভাবার জন্য এবং আমার সাথে কোঅপারেট করেছেন। এবং আমি তো বিরুদ্ধ জাতীয়কেও বলবো, কারণ তাদের প্রোডাকশন এত ভালো এবং সবচেয়ে বড় কথা এত চিপ কস্ট রেখেছেন। আমি তো বলেছিলাম যে তোমরা খুব ইয়ে করেছো, কারণ ইংরেজি বইয়ের অনেক দাম, ছোট ছোট বই 1000 টাকা, 500 টাকা, 900 টাকা, ওরা অত্যন্ত কম দাম রেখেছে। এবং আমি বলেছি নেক্সট এডিশনে ওটা বাড়ানোর জন্য, কারণ ওদের প্রোডাকশন ভীষণ ভালো হয়েছে, ভীষণ ভালো প্রোডাকশন, কারণ অত ভালো হার্ডবোর্ড করেছে। এবং আমি এটাও বলেছি যে ওটা পেপার ব্যাক করলে পরে বাইরে যাওয়া বা যেটা পোস্ট করার পক্ষে সুবিধাজনক হবে, একটু হালকা হবে। পরবর্তীতে ভেবে দেখতে বলবো এটা। এবং অবশ্যই প্রাইসটাও, কারণ প্রাইস, ইংরেজি বইয়ের প্রাইস যথেষ্ট ভালো। আমার ম্যাগাজিনের দাম নিয়ে ইংল্যান্ডে হাসাহাসি করছিল, ওরা বললো যে আমাদের এখানকার একটা চিকলেটের থেকেও তোমাদের বইয়ের দাম কম। তো আমি এই কবিতাটা পড়ি, এটা সম্পর্কর সাথে ইকোনমির একটা যোগ আর কি, একেবারে টোটালি অর্থনীতির শব্দগুলো আমি ব্যবহার করেছি। সমান্তরাল সরল রেখার মতো সম্পর্ক আর বিপ্রতীপ কোণ জানাশোনা যদি না মেলে, সে দোষ কার? সম্পর্কের না সম্পর্ক উৎপাদনকারীর? কারণ উৎপাদন কার্যত হয় মুনাফা অর্জনে। তাই মুনাফা ভোগী ও উৎপাদকের সম্পর্কে যে তাৎপর্য, তা বুঝে নিতে আপনাকে এপাঠ নিতেই হবে যে সম্পর্কজাত মুনাফা বাজার কতটা উঠবে নামবে তা না মেনেই উৎপাদক এগোলে তার টিকে থাকা কঠিন। কারণ মুনাফা ও উৎপাদনের সাথে বাজারের সম্পর্ক আছে। সেই বাজারি সম্পর্কে আপনি কি বিশ্বাসী? সম্পর্কের বাজার যখন সূচক ছাড়িয়ে যায়, তখনই আসে ভাঙন। আর এই ভাঙন রোধে কোটি কোটি টাকা অর্জিত হয় কেন্দ্র রাজ্য সম্পর্কে। ওরা পড়েছে বাংলা কবিতাগুলো, আমি পড়ছি না। ওরা ইংরেজি কবিতা 37 পোয়েট্রিটা আমার খুব প্রিয় কবিতা, সেটা পড়েছে। আমি ওটা পড়ছি না, আমি এটা আর একটি একেবারেই ব্যক্তিগত কবিতাই পড়ছি। আর কিছু কবিতা হয়তো সবাইকে ছুঁয়ে যায়, এবং সেটা যদি যায় তাহলেই কবির সার্থকতা। কারণ আমি যেটা বলবো সেটা যদি সবার কথা না হয়, শুধুমাত্র ব্যক্তিগত কথা হলে তা বেশি দিন টিকবে না। যা মানুষের কথা, সকলের অনুভূতির কথা যদি বলা যায়, কারণ আমরা রবীন্দ্রনাথ যখন পড়ি বা রবীন্দ্রনাথের গান শুনি, আমার তো এই অনুভূতিটা হয়েছিল, কিন্তু আমি তো এমন করে বলতে পারিনি। এবং রবীন্দ্রনাথ যার জন্য এখনো প্রাসঙ্গিক, অনন্তকাল বাংলা সাহিত্য, বাংলা ভাষা যতকাল বেঁচে থাকবে, মানুষ, বাঙালি মানুষ যতদিন থাকবে, রবীন্দ্রনাথ আমাদের কাছে কোনোদিন শেষ হবে না, অপূর্ণ থেকে যাবে আমাদের আরো রবীন্দ্রনাথ জানার জন্য অপূর্ণতা। কারণ রবীন্দ্রনাথের কথা পড়তে গেলে আমরা বুঝতে পারি যে আমারই তো অনুভূতির কথা এই মানুষটা, মানে জীবনের সমস্ত কোণগুলো যেন তিনি অনুভব করেছেন, সকলের। মানে আমার এই সময় এইরকম দুঃখ হয়েছিল, এইটা বলতে ইচ্ছে করেছিল, কিন্তু আমি ভাষা খুঁজে পাইনি, আমি এইভাবে তো বলতে পারিনি। মানে উনি এত বেশি ফিল করেছেন। তো একজন কবি তো সেই জন্যই বেঁচে থাকবে, সে যত বেশি ফিল করবে অন্যদের কথা এবং প্রকাশ করতে পারবে অন্যদের মতো করে, সকলের মতো করে। কবিতা নাম্বার 29। জীবনের কোনো এক ক্ষণে বসন্ত দিনে পড়ন্ত বিকেলে নির্মল আকাশ ঘেঁষে হেলান দেওয়া মেঘেদের ভিড়ে ফিরে আসে স্মৃতি। পাকা রং নিয়ে উন্মুক্ত গবাক্ষে হাতছানি দেয়। আমার শুভ্র কেশ ঘেঁষে দক্ষিণের বাতাস বয়, কুকু হায় ভালোবাসা এখনো জানান দেয় দিনান্তে আমার দরজায়। কাক ভোর হতে বসে বসে কেটে যায় আমার সময়, খালি স্মৃতি হাতড়ে হাতড়ে। সকলকে অসংখ্য ধন্যবাদ, এবং যারা অংশগ্রহণ করেছেন কবিতার বিচার্যে মায়া পণ্ডিতের মতন বিদগ্ধ জন, যিনি দলিত লিটারেচারকে সারা বিশ্বের দুয়ারে বলতে গেলে প্রায় সকলের আগে ট্রান্সলেটর করে পৌঁছে দিয়েছেন, উর্মিলা পাওয়ারকে সারা বিশ্বে পরিচিত করিয়েছেন, এবং মারাঠি অনেক লেখকের অনুবাদ তিনি করেছেন, এবং সুপরিচিত সারা বিশ্বে। ভারতীয় সাহিত্যের অনুবাদক হিসেবে মায়া পণ্ডিত সুপরিচিত। তিনি তার বিচারের কথা বলেছেন। তামিল লেখিকা এবং গবেষক এবং অধ্যাপিকা শ্রীমতী আমি নামটা ভুলে গেলাম, একটু হ্যাঁ ধরণী মিসেস ধরণী। তো এদের বিচারে এবং আমার যারা একসাথে আমরা চলেছি একসাথে, জয়দীপ দা তো আমাদের প্রতি তার অনেক দুর্বলতা আছে, অনেক ভালোবাসা, অনেক শ্রদ্ধা, এবং সে আমাকে বহুদিন আগে থেকে সবার কাছে পৌঁছে দেওয়ার চেষ্টা করেছেন, এবং আমি সারা জীবন কৃতজ্ঞ থাকবো তার কাজের প্রতি। এবং জিনিয়া যে সুন্দর বিশ্লেষণ করলেন, যেমন সূক্ষ্ম বিশ্লেষণ করলেন কবিতাগুলোকে ফিল করে করে, এবং আমরা অনেকবার আমাদের ডিসকাশন হয়েছে বাংলা কবিতাগুলো পড়ার জন্য। যেহেতু আমার পাংচুয়েশন থাকে না, সেই জন্য অন্যের একটু তো সেটার মধ্যে ঢুকতে তাকে বেশিবার পড়তে হয়, বারবার বাংলাটা পড়লে পরে সেটা আরো বেশি ক্লিয়ার হয়। আর সেই জন্য ট্রান্সলেশন এমনিতেই একটু কঠিন, কারণ আমি অনেক ভার্নাকুলার ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ ব্যবহার করি, শব্দ ব্যবহার করি। তো সেই আঞ্চলিক শব্দগুলো সকলের জানা থাকবে এটা তো নয়। বিশেষ করে ট্রান্সলেশনের কাজ যারা করে তারা অনেকেই হচ্ছে ইংরেজি মাধ্যম থেকে পাশ করা, ইংলিশ মিডিয়ামের ছেলে মেয়ের পক্ষে বাংলা ভার্নাকুলারটা জানা আরো কঠিন। আমাদের বাংলাও, কারণ বাংলা প্রতিটা জেলাতেই কিছু কিছু আলাদা আলাদা শব্দ আছে, প্রত্যেকটা জেলাতেই আমরা ভার্নাকুলার আঞ্চলিক শব্দগুলো ভাষাগুলো একদম ডাইলেক্ট সব আলাদা। তো সেই জায়গা থেকে ট্রান্সলেশন করা খুব কঠিন কাজ, এবং সেই কাজটা তারা ভীষণ গুরুত্ব সহকারে এবং খুব শ্রদ্ধাশীল ভাবে করেছেন, ডেডিকেশনটা ভীষণ ভাবে ছিল, এবং সেটার প্রতি আমি অত্যন্ত কৃতজ্ঞ। পাবলিশারের প্রতি কৃতজ্ঞ, কারণ পাবলিশাররাও খুব চেষ্টা করেছেন, এবং তারা প্রোডাকশনটা এত ভালো করেছেন যে যে দেখেছে সেই এক বাক্যে বলেছে ভীষণ ভালো, মানে কোনো ফাঁকি নেই। এত ভালো ইংরেজি বইয়ের, এবং ওটা আমি ওই প্রাইসের কথাও আমি ওদের সাথে, আমি যখন লিটল ম্যাগাজিন মেলাতে, ওরা তখন এক লট বই নিয়ে এসেছিল, আমার সাথে কথা হয়েছিল, পরন্তপ নয়, ওই ওর নাম হচ্ছে
অদ্বৈত।
হ্যাঁ অদ্বৈত। তো ওর সাথে কথা হলো, ও এনে দিয়ে আমি তো দেখেই খুব মানে তখন যারা যারা লিটল ম্যাগাজিন মেলাতে এসছেন প্রত্যেকে ওটা দেখেছেন, এবং আমি হাতে দিয়ে ওটাকে বিজ্ঞাপনও দিয়েছিলাম, ফেসবুকে দিয়েছিলাম ওটাকে আমি ধরে। তো সবাই খুব অ্যাপ্রিসিয়েট করেছেন যে ভীষণ ভালো হয়েছে, ভীষণ সুন্দর হয়েছে প্রোডাকশন, এবং ট্রান্সলেশন অবশ্যই খুব সুন্দর হয়েছে। আর যারা পড়লো তাদের তো নিশ্চয়ই তাদের নিজের পছন্দ এবং তাদের ভালো লাগা। এবং শ্রীমতী ধরণীকে আমি ধন্যবাদ দেবো যে তিনি তামিল ট্রান্সলেশনের প্রস্তাব দিয়েছেন, এবং সেখানে তার রিসার্চ স্কলারদের দিয়ে করাবেন বলে সেটাও দিয়েছেন। এটা আমার পক্ষে মানে আমাদের সকলের পক্ষেই এটা একটা বিরাট প্রাপ্তি। এবং এটার জন্য আর একজনও ওড়িয়াতে কথা বলেছেন, বিদ্যুৎ প্রভা বলেছেন তিনি ওড়িয়া ট্রান্সলেশন করবেন এটার। এবং আমাদের অন্য কাজগুলো চলছে প্যারালালি, দেখা যাক কে কি করতে চাইছেন, সকলের কাছে পৌঁছুক। আসলে আমরা তো চাইছি, আমরা প্রত্যেকেই, আমি জানি যে এখানে যারা আছেন প্রত্যেকেই চাইছি যে আমরা একটা সুষ্ঠু সমাজ চাই, সেইটার আমার সেই মেসেজটাই আমি দিতে চাই যে আমরা একটা সুস্থ ভালো সমাজ, একটা সাম্যের জায়গা চাইছি সকলে। সেই মেসেজটা এক একজনের এক এক যার যে কোয়ালিটি আছে সেই এফোর্টটা সেদিক থেকে দিচ্ছেন। তো সেই জন্য আমরা সকলের কাছে পৌঁছে গেলে আমরা সকলে যাতে একইভাবে ভাবতে পারি যে আমরা একটা সুন্দর ভারতবর্ষ, একটা সুন্দর পৃথিবী তৈরি করব। সেই সুন্দর পৃথিবীতে সবাই ভালো থাকবে এবং সেই ভালো থাকাটাই তো আমরা চাইছি। এটাকেই বলে সত্যম শিবম সুন্দরম। সুন্দরমটা আসলে ওই জায়গাতে সত্য থাকলে পরে সেখানে অবশ্যই সুন্দরও থাকবে। সেই সুন্দর কিন্তু এস্থেটিক্স এর কথাটাই হচ্ছে, এস্থেটিজমই হচ্ছে সত্যম শিবম সুন্দরম। সুন্দরটা ওইখানে যে সবাই যখন সুন্দর থাকে, সবাই কোনো দুঃখ থাকবে না, যুদ্ধ থাকবে না, কেউ না খেয়ে মারা যাবে না, কাউকে জাতের কারণে মরতে হবে না, পুড়িয়ে মারা হবে না, বা জল খেতে না দিয়ে একটা শিশুকে মেরে ফেলা হবে না। আমরা তো সেইরকম একটা সমাজ চাইবো, সেইরকম একটা পৃথিবী গড়তে চাইবো। তো আমরা সবাই একই সাথে সেইটা চাইছি এবং আমাদের সকলেরই ওই একই মেসেজ এবং একই উদ্দেশ্য যে আমরা একটা সুন্দর পৃথিবীর স্বপ্ন দেখি।
Thank you, Kalyani. Thank you so much. And he expressed indebtedness to all. Actually, she expressed her sincere thanks to all who are present here. Over to Vasudhara. Thank you for the
Thank
vote
you
of
very
thanks.
much. And with the words of the author herself, we come to the conclusion of a very beautiful and I hope a very meaningful session. The book has been well showcased. Many critical aspects of the book have been brought out. The wealth of the poems have certainly been revealed by our wonderful students reading out from the book. And hearing from the poet herself now, I think, enthuses us all towards more creation, more productivity, and particularly more translations from all these languages where marginal writing is taking place very actively in India. Thank you very much for coming together, for helping us celebrate this wonderful book. And I hope that we will keep coming together for poetry in the days to come. Thank you very much.
And more power to all of you.
Yes,
And
thank you,
especially to
Kalyani,
Kalyani.
for your appreciation.
Thank you.
ভালো লাগলো।
Thank you so much for joining.